So, hello everyone. Today I'm gonna present part of what I'm doing in my PhD at Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Porto Alegre, Brazil. In aerial surveys, we usually have two detection errors that result from two different processes. The first error is the availability error resulting from individuals being hidden below vegetation and not available for detection, or in the case of marine surveys, submerged individuals. And the second error, given that the individual is available for detection, the observer can fail to detect it, and this is the perception error. The common approaches to address these errors in aerial surveys are using auxiliary data for addressing availability and multiple observer protocol or distance sampling for perception error. So drones are becoming an accessible tool for ecologists, and we have seen a recent rapid increase in their use for ecological research and monitoring of wildlife populations. And they are replacing conventional aircraft to survey large terrestrial mammals like elephants, marine mammals like dugongs, seals, whales, also water birds, and so on. But people are going way beyond this and are using drones to sample species that were before really unsuitable for aerial surveys, such as raisin sharks, orangutans, canids like coyotes and foxes with thermal cameras, and even koalas. So the accessibility of the drones as a tool for ecologists and its versatility permit us to explore novel approaches for designing and analyzing aerial surveys. So here we try to explore the use of hierarchical and mixture models for modeling abundance with drone surveys. For this, we apply a survey design with spatial-temporally replicated drone surveys and a double observer protocol in image review for addressing the two common detection errors in aerial surveys: availability and perception. So based in some characteristics of marsh deer, we tested three hypotheses on the influence of landscape variables. In this case, water bodies, vegetation greenness, and jaguar density on the local abundance of marsh deer. So detailing a little bit more the survey design proposed, we have repeated flights over flight paths, and we split these flight paths in sites. And for each visit in each site, we have a double observer protocol in which the observer independently marks detected individuals. Then the resulting data, for each site in each visit, we have counts under different possibilities of capture histories. It is in this first column, counts by the two observers, counts only by the first and by the second observer. So if we consider the abundance constant along the visits, we can model this data under this triple and mixture model, in which the local abundance in sites comes from a Poisson distribution. The number of available individuals comes from a binomial distribution in which each individual from the population comes from, has a probability phi of being available for detection, and the counts under each capture history are determined by a probability of perception by the observers in the multinomial distributions. So this would be a multinomial and mixture model with temporary immigration component. But in the case we only have a single observer count for the sites in each visit, we cannot segregate the two processes, and we have the classic binomial and mixture model in which the detection probability in this case is the product of availability and perception. So the study area is located in Pantanal wetland in the western Brazil. Is the largest private natural reserve of Brazil, Sesc Pantanal. There we conducted 24 flights in these 6 planned missions in yellow in the map. We flew each mission from 2 up to 6 times each one. For this, we used a fixed wing drone from, it is a Char 20B from a Brazilian company, Xmobots. And we planned the flights to obtain a pixel resolution of about 2 centimeters side at the ground level in order to be able to identify the deer in the pictures. So once we got the pictures, the first observer manually reviewed all the pictures of our image set, and the second observer only reviewed 20% of the image set. And this is how the deer appear in the images. Some examples. For the data analysis, we compared the 2 approaches with double observer protocol and single observer counts. And we compared these 2 models, and we fitted the models under a likelihood approach using unmarked package. We chose a segment length of 1 kilometer to split the flight path into sites, resulting in a total of 203 sites. So for the 3 covariates we tested in the local abundance parameter, water bodies and vegetation greeners, we obtained from scenes of the Sentinel-2 satellite. And the jaguar density map was derived from a spatial capture-recapture study using camera traps. We also tested in the detection process the effects of the proportion of forests in the sites and the temperature during flights in the detection of individuals. So we got a total of 66 records, deer records, in the 25,000 pictures collected in this service. The red points in the map are the location of these records. And from the AIC model selection, we obtained the same best ranked model for both approaches with vegetation greenness and distance to water bodies in the local abundance parameter, and temperature and coverage of forests in the detection process. For the coefficient estimates, we had a positive effect of vegetation greenness and a negative effect of distance to water bodies in the local abundance of marsh deer, and no effects of jaguar densities. And in the observation process, we had a negative effect of temperature and the coverage of forests in the detection of individuals. And for the 2 observer model, we obtained a probability of an observer detect an individual available on the images of 0.93, what is quite high. So these are the predicted relations of the local abundance with vegetation greenness and distance to water bodies for the double observer model, and the predicted relations of availability probability with temperature and the coverage of forests. So with this approach, we can make some nice spatial predictions. We excluded here cells in this map with highly forested, and we can see here that in the dry season, the marsh deer population is really concentrated in the west part of the reserve. That what is the weather area that has more water bodies and with more primary productivity. So one thing that came up in this process was if the choice we made to segment the flight paths would influence our abundance estimates, then we fitted just the annual this multinomial triple model for different choices of segment length to define the sites. And what we can see here is that we have large differences in confidence intervals, but all of them are really overlapped. So in this case, it indicates apparently no bias in relation to the choice of segment length for defining sites. So here we could test the influence of landscape variables on the local abundance of marsh deer using drones and mixed models. And we found that the distribution of marsh deer local abundance is more influenced by bottom-up related processes in the dry season and not by predators. With this approach, we could account for imperfect detection, the two common detection errors in aerial surveys, availability and perception. We did not need using auxiliary data as is usually done for aerial surveys. We applied this approach for low density species, relative low density species, and in a relative large spatial scale, especially when we are talking about studies with drone surveys. And the approach was robust in this case to the choice of segment length for sites. With the use of multiple observer protocol, we could model separately both observation processes, availability and perception, and we could improve precision estimates. With this approach, we can improve precision estimates in abundance, especially when the perception probability is not high, what was not exactly our case. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.